Hey guys, welcome back to the Interceptor. We are here with war number 11 of season 45, and Matrix has matched up against PALO. Now these guys are usually in the bottom 10 of Masters or in the top of Platinum 1. So we should have a good war if we want to have a shot to win this one. But they are actually, I think, they are either in a position where they don't need a win anymore to stay in the bracket and they can't go up, or they just had a really bad war, because we're going to absolutely wipe the floor with them this war, and you'll see what happens. And the title may seem a little weird, but what I want you to do is I want you to enjoy the fights first, and then at the end of the video we're going to address what the title is discussing, because something does happen in this war. But I'd rather kind of segment this into two parts of a video. One, which is just about the gameplay, and then two is about the analysis of a certain fight. But we are here with the team of Stealthy, Hood, and Mole Man. And this is a very cool team because, first off, Stealthy, one of my favorite champs. Again, Hood, one of my favorite champions. And then the Mole Man synergy is absolutely incredible. It's an incredible synergy for Hood that basically just gives him bullets back whenever you knock the defender down, giving him a third way to get his bullets back. The first two obviously being nullifying buffs and missing hits, and then when the miss timer expires, however many red charges you have, go back into your bullet charges. That's the way Hood works. So that first fight, Dragon Man, it was only a rank 1 7-star. I feel like I didn't have to say anything about it. The one thing that is going to be a little bit weird this war is that the stealthy fights are going to be a little scarier because I don't have the Scorpion synergy that I'm usually able to have with me, which just means that I'm not able to pause my slows in any of my fights. But the stealthy fights that I have this war are not exactly the hardest fights. So if there was a war for me to be without Scorpion, it would be this war. Now here we have this Nova, and I'm going to be a big brain gamer and take an L1 to the face right off the start of the fight. I'm not going to get hit again this fight. He's going to be dead in like 15 seconds. Actually, I think he's dead out of this L2. I think I go into another L2 and then kill him. Or no, I just go for a heavy, and then I counter this dash with an L2 and he dies. Very easy fight. That was a rank 5 Nova, but he's flushed down the toilet in 30 seconds, despite me eating an L2 to the face. We have another 9 fights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 fights. We have 9 fights this war. And we actually are going over to path 8 again against this Storm Pyramid X. Now, no one on my team really counters this fight that well, so I'm going to be using Hood. In hindsight, Stealthy probably would have been faster, but there's obviously the potential for her to just glance every single light ending attack that I do, and I never get my Fury up. She can't fail my precision through glance, but she can fail my Fury. Actually, no, I guess I could instead ignore going for the light attacks and only go for an SP2, because since she can't glance specials, no, yeah, that would have been what I would have done, and in hindsight that would have been faster. But what I'm going to do with Hood is I'm just going to play this slow, and you'll notice at the end of the fight that I'm pretty much only using heavy attacks because I want to just get as many bullets back as I can, because the next two fights are tough, to say the least, for Hood. Well, actually, not the one after this, but the 2 fights after that, because I have 5 Hood fights this war. But for this fight, I'm just going to play it ultra slow, make sure I'm baiting out special attacks, just baiting SP1 like crazy. Don't let her go to L2, because if she throws L2 while I don't have phase up and it goes unblockable, I will be nuked from 100%. That has happened to me before. Not in war. I've never died to Storm X in war, but it's still not a fun thing to have happen. And here I probably should have yeah, thrown that L2 instead of throwing a heavy attack, but at this point I'm kind of in bullet preservation mode, and I'm just trying to bait specials and only hit her with heavy attacks, which is why I go for a striker here into a heavy, and you'll notice I get charges back, and I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm going to parry again here. I go from 33 up to 36. So the fact that you get 3 bullets back on every heavy attack is actually pretty cool. The video is going to be a little bit laggy here. I actually couldn't edit it. I don't know why. Because this is like a day ago that I was taking these fights. So it's not that long ago, but for some reason this video, I deleted every other thing, like every other video in my phone, because I normally don't keep any videos, because I have no reason to, other than like family, just, you know, stuff like that. MCOC related videos specifically, and I always have enough room to edit my videos, but here I did not, and I don't know why, but as long as it doesn't lag like that again, it's fine. This is Hulkling on Rich Get Richer, and there I knew he would go indestructible passively when I nullified the active one, but I was more focused about just getting the power gain off of him as soon as possible, and I didn't really care that much about anything else. Specifically about my SP2 doing 0 damage, because I'm not worried about this fight. Now right there, because I have the Fate Seal on him, and I threw my SP2, I have my invisibility buff, so I'm actually gaining power from Rich Get Richer, which is why I was sent to an SP3 there. But you'll notice I'm up to 40 charges. I believe the max Hood gets to is 42, although I could just be losing my mind. Yeah, it is 42, because if it was 43 or higher, that heavy attack would have put me past 43, because a heavy attack gives you 3. But also, something I should mention, I did put my Mystic's Dispersion down to 3 out of 5 for the first 4 Hood fights, and then for my 5th Hood fight, I'm going to be putting it up to 5 out of 5. And right there, I had a visual bug where my icon didn't move all the way to the end. And I don't know if it's still a thing in MCOC, but I know years ago there was this bug where if that happened and you chose a path to go on to, it would randomize the path you go to instead of going to the one that you clicked every time. So I wasn't 100% sure that that was fixed, because again, ever since that happened to me in War, every time I see that visual bug, I back out and I go back in, because then it never happens. But if I'm caught lacking one time and I don't notice the icon didn't move, and I click on a path and it sends me, let's say, to path C. Now, sure, in this scenario, I would have one action back and I'd be able to move back and go to the correct path, but there's no reason to risk something like that. So this is a rank 5 6-star Werewolf by Night on the right back at it node, and I do have a White Mags pre-fight here, which is awesome. But here I'm going to be an idiot, and I'm going to apply my slow right at the end of the debuff immunity, which doesn't really matter that much. Like, I literally just lose 1 charge, but he's going to die before this slow even expires. Here I'm going to combo this into an L2, and it's way overkill. That last hit, if it crit, would have dealt like 30,000 damage, because I have 5 out of 5 Assassin on. That fight goes down really easily, and now we go to this Gorr fight. Now, you guys saw me take a rank 3, 6, or 7-star Gorr on this node last war with Hood, and this one's not going to go quite as well for one big reason, and that reason is that after my second combo in the fight, I think I'm at an L2, but I'm actually at an L1, and I throw my L1, which is really dumb. It's just a stupid mistake that I make. Or maybe it's after my first combo here. No, right here I go for a double medium, thinking I'm at an SP2. So I threw the SP1, but the problem is that this node has increased damage that the defender deals based on how many buffs they have. And then there I wasn't able to continue hitting him because the damage reflects during the stun. But he is going to get to throw off 2 L1s right here. So I'm going to go there. Because I'm a dumb idiot, I didn't counter. But if that was a very clutch intercept I landed right there. Because if I had let him hit into my block, there was a very high chance he would have inflicted some DOT effects. And with all of the buffs he had, those would have been insanely strong. And I have actually seen people die to this node from blocking 1 time, and they just died straight up from the DOT. Like, it's pretty crazy the damage that it can deal. Now, I'm gonna skip forward about 30 seconds. It's probably about a minute and a half actually. There we go. Actually, that's perfect timing. to this long shot because the guy that was clearing node 46, because I'm taking node 48, I had to wait for him to clear his fight, and I didn't expect him to be done already. Like, I was going to stop recording and then start my recording back up when 46 was down, but he actually took it while I was taking my Gorr fight. So here we went to the middle mini of Hazard Shift, which is the stun immune one, and we're taking a rank 5 ascended long shot. This is a pretty straightforward fight. You just want to kind of try to push to SP2 every single chance that you have. I did land a nice intercept there and then there again. But here I was trying to not apply my slow so that I could end the combo into an SP1 to push him to another bar. But unfortunately, this slow is just going to expire, which means I don't have my Fury yet. I am going to get up my Fury shortly after. I believe it's not in this combo, but the combo after. Right here. Or am I gonna let it I'm gonna let it expire again. So here's the slow. Here's where I'm actually going to apply it. Again, trying to push him to an SP2. And then there. Now I have my Fury, bait the L2. I'm really confident at evading it and punishing it. Very easy for me. I believe I'm going to throw my SP2 here just to get the elongated slow, push him to another SP2. But something funny about Longshot on this node is that with his personal increased ability accuracy, it actually affects nodes. So the 30% chance for Hazard Shift to inflict a damage over time effect actually becomes 100%. So you'll notice at one point in that fight, I had all the way up to 15 poisons. And needless to say, without the attacker tactic making that damage 0, I would have been nuked real fast. So here we have Darkhawk. Darkhawk on node 48. It's actually not a bad placement, but this fight becomes a lot harder when you don't have the white mags pre-fight, especially when Stealthy does not have Scorpion as a teammate, because you can run there's a real chance that you can get caught in your own corner because you don't have a slow active, and you can just get hit by heavy attacks and everything because you can't fully dex his heavy in the corner consistently. Now I am trying to push to SP2 here, and I am gonna knock him down with an SP1. The nice thing in this fight is that you have access to slow from 2 different ways, but unfortunately he is going to spend just enough time here not throwing a special that I don't have enough time to combo in and do a light ending combo there to reapply my slow. So now I just have to wait for that stealth mode to expire, and I can't hit him. I'm gonna parry him right here, try to go for a light attack because again it's only a chance to miss. But there my evade actually saves me and I don't get hit from that heavy attack in the corner. Reapply my slow. I got very lucky that the Unstoppable did not activate because it did have a chance to activate right there. But here I'm just going to bait out a heavy and take Darkhawk down. Luckily, this was only an R4, but even if it was an R5, it would have been completely fine. Here, I'm just going to take a minute to reset my masteries. Sorry. Okay, there I took a minute to just reset my masteries and put on 5 out of 5 MD. So I guess I just took the points out of Limber and put them into MD. And this is I really should have paused on the fight. I don't know why I didn't. Hold on, I'm trying to get back to it. Hopefully this is it. The video's taking a long time. Sorry. Okay, here we are. Yeah, the video is going to be slow like this. But this is... Oh my god. Oh, I have to re-show the boosting and then I'm going to pause. This is a rank 3 Maestro boss. And if you guys saw me take the rank 5 Ascended Maestro boss a few wars ago, it was a very fun fight and HUD controlled the fight very well. But this is a rank 3. This is the biggest Maestro in the game you can possibly fight on the biggest node. And it's going to be a very interesting fight. Now, there is something that I want you to remember for later on this image right here that I didn't see. The 2 pre-fight charges. I went into this fight not thinking I had any pre-fights applied. But unbeknownst to me, when I exited the war menu, or like the war part of the game, to fix my masteries, someone came in and they applied 2 Mr. Fantastic prefights to the boss. And when the assignments initially came out, I saw that there was supposed to be Mr. Fantastic prefights applied to the boss, and I requested them not to be on the boss. I'll show you the screenshot later of exactly what I said, but I said they will do literally nothing but heal Maestro. It will make it a much harder fight if I have Mysterio debuffs or Mr. Fantastic debuffs on there. Please do not apply Mr. Fantastic prefights to the boss, is what I said, essentially. And that person missed the message. They missed that message, and they applied the prefights. And I did not know that they applied the prefights until about 5 seconds into this fight, after I hit him for the first time, and he started healing. And that is really going to complicate this fight. So let's get into the fight. It's still doable. It's still possible. But that makes it significantly harder to have Mr. Fantastic prefights. Now, I'm sure you're saying to yourself, well, Sam, why can't you just let them fall off at the beginning of the fight? There's a specific reason I can't let them fall off right at the beginning of the fight, and that's because his glancing activates at 10 charges. So I have to throw my SP2 before those 10 charges, or else I risk losing the pace of the fight. So at this point, I'm just kind of thinking, okay, as long as I control this fight, I'll be fine. Right? I'll be fine with the healing. Now it's 589 per tick. That's almost 1100 per second. Actually, it's over 1100 per second. It's almost 1200 per second. It's 1178 per second, I believe that is. I'm not sure. That's just a very quick mental math. But a minute into the fight's looking great, right? I'm at 98%. He's at 64%. But here's the problem, right? There, he throws an SP1, I full dex it, and I still lose 10% of my health. Full dexing an SP1. And I'm going to be using my phase to knock him down as much as possible here, because here you just want to spam heavy attacks and special 2s to get his charges down as fast as possible. He throws another SP1, another full dex in brute. And that is 20% health lost from doing nothing wrong. And I'm down to 69% now. Now, the Mr. Fantastic debuffs are going to expire in a little bit, but at this point, they've already given him so much healing. How much healing? We're gonna talk about that later. And then right there. With some champions, if you chain an SP2 out of a medium combo, even if you time it perfectly, there's a chance that the AI can block it. Not with all champions in the game. But Hood is one of those champions. And I didn't know that. It had never happened to me before in the 6 years I've been playing this game using Hood. It had never once happened to me. The first time it happened, in a war boss. Now, there's one upside to this, the fact that the Mr. Fantastic debuffs are now going to fall off, so he's going to stop healing. But I just lost so much pace on that fight. With the combination of my Mystic Power Back boost and the Power Steal from my SP2 while my invisibility is up, I would have gained back, on average, let's say like 1.2 bars of power. And with my 2 free openings from my phase, that would have gotten me to another SP2 that I could have thrown. And you can continue this cycle as long as you don't bait specials out of the Maestro, because if you do, then the amount of power stolen back is not enough. And the 2 guaranteed openings from invisibility are not enough to get you back to an SP2 consistently. So not only did I lose out on a ton of hexes, which is just straight up a bunch of damage lost, I also just fucked up the pace of the fight. So now I need to recover the fight. He's being super defensive. Here I'm going to bait the L2 because if I can't power steal, there's no reason for him to have a lot of power. I'm going to throw my heavy attack here. Oh, sorry, I'm not going to throw. No. Okay, I'm going to get back to another L2, throw it, and then throw my heavy attack. So here I knew my heavy attack wouldn't push to an SP3. It almost did, but he's only at like 2.9 bars. And now we're into glancing again. And I'm at 70%. And now I'm at 60%. And you will come to realize just how significant the cosmic radiation damage is. Here I'm going to use my phase to get an opening, but nope. He is going while my phase is up, and I am holding block. Just standing there holding block. He walks up to me and throws a special. And when I see him start to walk up to me, the idea that pops in my head is, oh, he's going to hit into my block, right? But because I have miss, I can land a heavy and get his charges down. But instead, he throws an SP1. And after I recovered from the SP1, after I recover from my own heavy attack, because my miss did save me, after I recovered from my own heavy attack, I didn't have enough time to get my controls back and dex the hit. Because I couldn't, I had not yet recovered from my own heavy attack. So I just had to sit there and take an L1 to the face. Because of bad AI. And at this point, I'm losing the fight. And here, I have to throw an SP1 because I have to get his charges down as soon as possible. He's down to 8. At this point, my plan is to just outrange him. But he throws an SP1 into my block. And now I'm down to 7%. This is still salvageable. But look what I'm going to do here. He starts walking towards me, so I go for an intercept. He steps back and parries me. And I'm dead. So we're going to revive. We're going to take this fight down. And then we're going to go to some statistical analysis. That's going to be very fun. And the subject to the reason that this video is titled, "Should this death," in quotation marks, count? And we're going to be discussing that. So I'm going to heal up. Had some Alliance team potions here. Not going to use an SP1 boost or anything because Maestro won't even get back to his glancing in time, so there's really no reason to try. I'm just going to be trying to get to an L2 as soon as possible using my my miss as to get openings, landing some really nice intercepts there. There I landed an intercept, got my L2 off, and then here I believe I'm just going to throw a heavy, and he is going to go down. But okay, sorry, really quick interruption. I know this is in the middle of a video, but this video ended up being way longer than I thought. I thought this would be like 20 minutes of gameplay and then 5 minutes of discussion at the end. It ended up being 20 minutes of gameplay and then 24 minutes of discussion at the end. It just kind of got out of hand. I'm not going to be taking anything out of that video, but for the people that are here to just watch the gameplay, I wanted to add this in the middle so that you can know exactly how this war went. If you're just here for the gameplay, you don't care about the drama, right? So if you're just here for the gameplay and you don't actually care what went on in this war beyond the fights that you saw, I'm going to give you the stats now. If the stats seem off by 1, that's because you didn't watch the end of this, or you haven't yet to watch the end of this video. All will be explained why the stats are the way that they are. But for now, I will give you the stats, and this is, again, just a temporary solution until I decide what to do with my stats, because they are a little bit messed up because of this. We won this war 41-7. We absolutely demolished these guys. It was not close at all. Again, 41-7. It was our second best finish of the season. Our best finish being a 6-death war in war, I want to say 8, but it could have been 7 or 9. It was one of those 3. It was one of those third week wars. And my death total is at 0. Again, if that sounds wrong because you guys just saw me die to Maestro, watch the rest of this video. It will all be explained. PSR this season, 92 out of 92 or 100%. And my Deathless streak is up to 93 fights heading into next war. And if you're here for just the gameplay on this video, then you can stop watching it now, because the next 20 minutes are not going to be interesting to you unless you are a statistics major and you like looking at numbers, or you love drama, because there is there's some fun drama in the rest of this video. So yeah, I will give it back to 20 minutes ago me, who will give you a 20-minute monologue now. But if you're here for just the gameplay, you can stop watching now, because that portion of the video is over. If that death counts, the Deathless season is now over. And I am not one to make a ton of excuses. When I die, I don't hide my deaths. I show you guys everything that happens in my fights. But I do not count deaths the same way that the game does. I do not count a death. I really hate this loading. I hate this background screen. I want it to be on something. Give me the KO screen right here while I talk. There we go. Perfect. I want deaths to be a measure of skill, right? For that reason, there are 3 categories of what the game considers a lost attack bonus that I don't count as deaths on YouTube. Now, obviously, in-game, there's nothing you can do about it. But I kind of use the in-game numbers as a rough guide and not like an objective, this is how you did kind of thing, because I think their system is kind of flawed in multiple ways. There's 3 categories of things I don't count as deaths for YouTube. Number 1, disconnect. If you disconnect to a fight, obviously you should not lose like your personal Deathless season for that reason. There is literally nothing you can do. You just got unlucky, right? I think that's a fair one. I think most of us can agree that disconnects shouldn't count as deaths. The second thing is a timeout. Now that doesn't really happen anymore because they extended the war seasons the war fights from 3 minutes to 5-minute timers. But back when it was 3-minute timers, there were some fights that were extremely hard to do in 3 minutes, no matter who you used. For example, during the Protect meta, I'm sure most of you remember that, or if you're newer to the game, you wouldn't. But during the Protect meta, which is basically a node where the hashtag Protect champions receive a protection when the attacker does more than, I think it's 300% of their attack rating in a single hit. And the meta boss, like the most popular boss during that time, was Thing bosses. And the most popular counter was Void. And even if you are running Resonate with a Void that is the same rank as Thing, if your SP1 crits, even with no boosts, you activate protection. So you have to play the fight in a really weird way, where you still can throw SP1s, but if your SP1 second hit crits, you have to land a naked intercept to remove the protection, right? And there were several times, not just me, where I'd see people time out to the fight with like 1 to 5% health left, right? And it happened to me once. I did time out to a Thing boss with Void when Thing was at 1% health, because he was stingy and held on to his specials, and I was not able to throw as many of my own SP1s because of that. And I don't count that as a death because it's a timeout. You didn't die, right? I don't count lost attack bonus. I count deaths. And you obviously, in a timeout, you didn't die. Now, there are exceptions to this. For example, if you're using Void and you don't turn on the Resonate Mastery and you time out with 5% health left, yeah, you would have won the fight if you just did your masteries a little better, right? So for that, which did happen to me once, I took an Emma Frost on the Safeguard mini with Void, and this was before I had Resonate unlocked, And I did count that as a death, even though it was a timeout, because it was my own fault that I timed out. So that's category 2, is timeouts. Category 3, and I have actually used this rule before, so I have precedent for this. Category number 3, for what I don't count a death that the game counts as a lost attack bonus, is deaths that you had no control over. Or sorry, not that you had no control over, but deaths that happened by a reason other than you messing up the fight. Right? So a couple examples I can give. When an officer has never seen a placement before and they assign a champion that they think will work, but upon reviewing video of the fight, they realized it was physically impossible to solo the fight, that would be an example of a death that would be excused because it's a mistake by the officer, or whatever the reason happens to be. You were sent into a fight that is physically impossible to solo. That would be an example of a death that would get excused in category 3. And when I died, I was pretty angry, but I went to the gym. I did my workout. I cooled off a bit, and then I got back and I rewatched the footage. And I have seriously been wondering, should this count as a category 3? And it turns out that the data actually supports that it should. Let me show you exactly what I mean. I spent a while crunching the numbers on why I think, or at least I am proposing, that this death should not count against me. First off, this is the message I sent. This is the message I said. Also, this is me reacting to the path assignments. This is a group chat, but because it's on Telegram, it doesn't show how many people have read it unless you click on the message and you open up a menu for each message, and then it shows who's read it. And the guy that was applying the fantastic pre-fights, he did actually read these messages, both of them, but he must have just scrolled over it and not noticed it. But I said, also, I don't need the fantastic pre-fights on boss. It won't do anything. I only needed it last war because of the power gain node. Now, you remember last war I took Maestro on node 47, which has return policy. And when I am nullifying his buffs, for each buff, he's going to be gaining 40% of a bar of power. So I requested from my officer that I receive the Mr. Fantastic pre-fights because I wanted to control that power gain with Hood. And that fight went beautifully. You should go back and watch that video. I do strongly recommend going back to watch that video. But I think that my officer misunderstood and thought that in general, Mr. Fantastic pre-fights are needed in the matchup of Hood versus Maestro, which is completely untrue, and it was only specifically due to that node. And I did tell my officer that after this fight, after this war was over. And so he knows now, but I assumed that it was just assigned on the boss because he thought that it somehow helped the matchup, right? So what I did is I went back, I took screenshots of the exact percentages so that I could count the number of ticks of regen that he got in this fight. And the first time I hit him was at 454. It was actually at 455, but the healing tick started at 454, so we're going to start it at 454. If I started at 455, I actually overcompensate for the number, for how much healing. So this is actually an underestimate of the number of times he healed in this fight. And I also do that at the end here, 308. Technically, he did have one tick of regen while the clock said 307, but I rounded down so that you guys can see that, like, I'm not trying to exaggerate any of this. I'm actually making it the best case possible for this not to be the case. But then I did this. Okay, so I'm going to tell you exactly what this all means, because it can be confusing because the titles are not exactly obvious. Total health 1,081,702 health. That is the total health that this Maestro boss had. That's the amount of damage I had to deal to kill him. Healing started at 4:54 on the clock. Healing ended at 3:08 on the clock. And if you do the math, that works out to being a total time healing in seconds of 106 seconds. The healing per tick the whole fight was 589, and if you don't know the way that willpower works, you get 2 ticks a second, exactly 2, like it happens exactly every 0.5 seconds, so you get 2 healing ticks per second, which means that he was regenning 1,178 health per second while the debuffs were up. And if you multiply that 1,178 by the 106 seconds, you get that in total, while the Mr. Fantastic debuffs were up, he gained 124,868. And the main factor here is Assassin's Range. Because had he not healed that extra 124,868 health, he would have entered Assassin's Range 124,868 health earlier, right? So I found the exact range that the exact health amount that Assassin's Range starts at, which is 197,706. That is exactly 18% of the fight. So what I did is I subtracted that number from the total health, which means that overall I would have to deal 886,995 health before I enter Assassin's Range, right? And then after that should be the 197,706. But because all of the healing occurred before the Assassin's Range, after the point in the fight where I had dealt 886,995 health, he, instead of having 197,000, had 322,000, which is just the 197,000 plus the amount of healing, the 124,868. So what I did is I also had, obviously, the recording, so I was able to know exactly how much health he was at before I re-entered the fight for the second time. And when I died, he was down to 166,529%. So then what I did in the fight is I calculated the amount of damage I dealt while I should have been in the final 18%. Right? So that is the health remaining after he should have already been in Assassin's Range minus the health he ended with, and that's 156,045. So that is how much damage I dealt before he entered Assassin's Range that would have been in Assassin's Range had the Mr. Fantastic prefights not been applied to the fight. And the way that you fix those numbers is you're actually going to multiply the 156,045 by 1.6, because 5 out of 5 Assassin gives you a 60% damage increase in the final 18% of a fight, which means that in this area of the fight where I should have been in Assassin's Range, I would have dealt with Assassin's Range 249,876. And what I did is I took that number and I subtracted the amount of health remaining to get the amount of overkill I did, which is 83,146. So out of the 1,081,702 health that this fight had the Mr. Fantastic prefights not been applied, at the time that I died, I would have dealt 83,000 damage more than the boss had, which is 1.16 million. At the time I died, without the Mr. Fantastic prefights being applied, I would have dealt 83,000 more damage than I would have had to deal to get the fight done. So I probably would have ended the fight a good 25 seconds before I died, at which point I would have been around 60% health, which would have been the normal amount of damage the normal amount of health you expect to walk out of a fight like that with. That's all. That's the only screenshots I have. We're gonna go back to, I don't know, here. So this is where the debate comes in, right? I saw the Mr. Fantastic pre-fights were there. Were assigned. Were assigned when assignments initially came out. I specifically requested them not to be placed on the fight. And then they were placed on the fight without my knowledge, while I was swapping masteries for this fight. And I didn't notice until I was already in the fight. And I've literally calculated that as well as I played, I should have killed him and more. So does this death not count because of that? And I know that people watching this video are just going to think that I'm trying to avoid a death, but I'm literally statistically proving to you that I would not have died unless I hadn't been screwed. And I couldn't have let the Mr. Fantastic debuffs fall off at the start of the fight without losing the pace of the fight. Like, I literally dropped them at the time where it was safest, at the time where it was most convenient for the fight. So I couldn't really have done that any better. It just feels like, despite my great performance in this fight, I was screwed, and I died when I should not have died. Now, I'm obviously not going to count this as a solo. And, like, obviously I'm not going to count this as a solo, because why should I count this as a solo? But what I have done in the past, both with timeouts, disconnects, not with both, all with anyways, what I've done in the past with disconnects, timeouts, and assigned deaths, like fights I was literally assigned, I died to, and then I sent a video to my officer, and my officer literally agreed with me. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't know this matchup would work out this way. That fight was physically impossible to solo. For those fights, what I do is I count it as if I had never taken that fight, right? I just count it as if I only took 8 fights this war. So that's what I'm going to be doing for this war. I'm going to be counting it as if I only had 8 fights this war, and we are just going to forget that last fight happened so that I do not receive penalty for something that was not my fault, and I don't receive credit for something that I don't really deserve credit for. Because, yeah, technically I could have recovered that. I just made it so much harder on myself, and as I showed you in this, I would have had to deal so much more damage to survive this fight, because at this point, at the point I died, I dealt 1.16 mil, and he still had 166,000, which means that I would have had to deal almost 1.3 million or 20% more than he had in health, right? So this is only a tentative solution. This is only a temporary solution. I really want to hear what you guys think in the comments. So I don't want you to just say that, I don't want you to judge whether this should be a death or not based off of your metric of what a death is. I want you to judge it off of what I consider a death, because I believe that my way is actually a better way of comparing if it was if you died because of skill, which is what my channel's thing is supposed to be about. That's what the PSR system that I have used is supposed to be about. So yeah, if you have a particularly strong opinion on this video, then or on this topic, please let me know. But don't just like say a death's a death in the comments. Actually explain why you think it should count. Because if you have a good argument, I want to hear it, because I'm completely not opposed to counting this as a death. As of right now, like I said, temporary solution, we are not going to be counting this as a death. We're going to count it as if the fight didn't happen. But I will read all the comments. I'll respond to all the comments. If you have a genuine, good, thought-out reason using my definition of what a death is, on why this should count as a death, if you think that it shouldn't fall under one of those 3 categories, let me know. Or specifically category 3, because that's the one I'm arguing it should fall under. But I'm going to give you my stats this war as if that last fight didn't happen. If I end up changing that last fight to count as a death, then obviously that will be updated in the description of this video, and I will talk about it briefly at the start of the next video. So, we did win this war. Let's go back to this, and I'll just start playing somewhere in the middle of the video while I talk. We won this war. It was not close. We absolutely demolished these guys. Amazing job to Matrix. Huge shout out to you guys. Absolutely killing it this war. We actually won with a score of 41-7, which is not only our biggest win of the season, that's also our least deaths of the season. Second most, sorry. Sorry, we had a 5. We had a 5, I believe, earlier. Or was it a 6? It was either a 5 or a 6. But either way, this is our second best war of the season. So, great job to you guys. And my death total still at 0. Again, that is the temporary solution. I am not opposed to that changing. My mind is changed by intelligent comments on this video. That is temporary. And my PSR this season is at 92 out of 92, or 100%. And my deathless streak is up to 93 fights. So that is all for this video. I hope you guys enjoy. Know it's a long video. I know it's a long video, and I know 90% of the viewers aren't going to get this far into the video. They're not going to spend 44 minutes watching a war video that has 20 minutes worth of fights and 20 minutes worth of ethical discussions. Not really, but, you know. So yeah, I'm going to end the video now, and I'll see you guys later. I'm really excited to see what you guys think about this. And I'll see you guys later. Bye. Have a great day.